Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 3 Legend of the Dragon King Part 13 based on novel. So let's start. The opening ceremony on East Sea Academy's huge plaza. It was only during this ceremony that both clusters of students from the Advanced Academy and Intermediate Academy met. Being one of the tallest students there, Tang San was positioned at the back. This gave him ample opportunity to observe the whole plaza, as well as all of the students within the academy. At the Intermediate Academy, there were around 100 students within each grade, totaling up to a rough figure of 700 to 800 students in all. Compared with the Intermediate Academy, the group at the Advanced Academy was significantly smaller, as there were close to 200 students. Students in the Advanced Academy were divided into 3 grades. It was thus an arduous task to get into the Advanced Academy that only had a small succession rate of 20% of students coming from the Intermediate Academy. Good day, students. We shall now begin the East Sea Academy's annually held opening ceremony. The president of East Sea Academy has been invited to the ceremony and he will be making a speech shortly. East Sea Academy's president was a senior who looked to be about 60 years old. He had a medium build and didn't look that exceptional. He gave off a bookish atmosphere with his head full of white hair and pair of eyeglasses. Welcome to the academy, students. Every single year at this time, I feel a bit sad that students from the intermediate and advanced divisions have graduated and have left us. However, some of the intermediate students will enter the Advanced Academy in addition to our new students. As I see it, academies are like the blood of society. It receives individuals into the academy and later delivers them into society. In the near future, I hope all of you can. The president was very eloquent in his speech. In fact, he didn't even have a script to read off of. He spoke excellently for a full hour before he brought his speech to a close. The pinnacle of the opening ceremony proceeded right after the president's speech, class assignment. Students who did not need a class assigned to them were slowly making their way out from the crowded plaza. Fresh faces from the Advanced Academy left towards their academy for their own class assignment. What was left within the plaza were the new students of the Intermediate Academy. We will proceed with the class assignment. It is known that within East Sea Academy, the smaller the class number, the more prestigious class. Though that is a fact, we too hope for exceptions where students from the last class will work harder and perform better. We have a total of 108 new students today, divided up into 5 classes. The students whom I will call up next are in Class 1. Tang San finally understood the implications of Long Hongshu's words towards Xie Xie, Yun Xiao, and Zhu Zhangxi the day before, when they were sent to Class 5. There were a total of 5 classes, and students with more ability were positioned at the front. That said, Class 5 was positioned right at the back. Tang San, Zhu Zhangxi, Xie Xie, Yun Xiao. As expected, the 4 names were finally called when the announcer arrived at the list for Class 5. There were 20 students within Class 5, and it was the smallest class of them all. Each and every one of them had a listless expression. Class teachers, please direct your students to their classes and help them familiarize themselves within the academy. 5 teachers appeared before the crowd as the announcement ended. One of those 5 teachers headed towards the direction of Class 5. This teacher looked to be about 27 or 28 years old. When the students of Class 5 turned to look at him, they were all stunned. This teacher was simply too handsome. Although Tang San and Xie Xie had exceptional looks, they were just kids. Thus, there was a possibility that they might change upon maturation. This teacher, however, stood at a staggering height of over 1.9 meters along with a pair of lanky arms and a thin waist. White trousers accentuated his long legs. Though he looked thin, the combination of that along with his brightly lit eyes, well-set nose, and thin lips gave off an image of height and intelligence. The mass of hair was swept to the back of his head. A random current of wind caught on his light blue tresses and rested them on his waistline, affirming the length of his hair. His pupils were of a smoky green and the color matched well with his blue hair, giving off a strange temperament. His face was expressionless, his gaze icy. One of the girls in Class 5 breathed out quietly, "The teacher is so handsome." Unknown to the girl, she had voiced out the thought of all the students. Xie Xie twitched his lips at the comment, though his facial expression showed indifference. Come with me. This young teacher spoke simply. Though the words were simple, it left a certain chill among the students, right within their hearts. This feeling? Yun Xiao whispered under his breath, the teacher seems powerful. He seemed to be someone powerful indeed. His mere appearance in the plaza had inflicted frostiness onto others to such a great effect. This would not be possible if he were an ordinary person. Sun with rays. The classroom for Class 5 was located at ground level, positioned at the innermost area of the building and required much more walking to reach. There were 30 sets of tables and chairs in the classroom. The teaching platform was positioned at the front of the classroom. Take your seats, the youthful teacher said coldly. Every single time he spoke, it always gave off a feeling of iciness. Tang Wulin picked a desk on the side after much consideration. His height would have obstructed the view of others if he sat in the middle of the current row, so he picked one on the side. This allowed him to be able to sit near the front and not obstruct his classmates. There were no bearings of what Xie Xie had in mind, he simply picked a seat next to Tang Wulin. Simultaneously, Yun Xiao and Zhu Xiangxi dropped into the seats before and after him respectively. Thus, the four roommates were together again. The youthful teacher walked to the platform after entering the classroom. As he turned and scanned through the faces of the students before him, the chatter stopped and the classroom regained its silence. My name is Wu Zhongkong. The youthful teacher introduced himself plainly. For the next 6 years, you will all be under my tutelage. I would like to emphasize a point: you may disregard whatever Director Long Hongshu had mentioned at the ceremony. Even if you are a bunch of trash, I will train you into the strongest students within your cohort. That is unless you choose to drop out, otherwise, that shall be your aim for the next 6 years. While the words were full of arrogance, Wu Zhongkong spoke with a plain tone and it still attracted the attention of all the students within the class. You shall introduce yourselves, your name, martial soul, soul power rank, and your aspirations. Tell me all of it. You may begin. It was clear and simple, nothing overboard. The area Tang Wulin and his roommates sat happened to be the sidemost row of the room and Wu Zhongkong happened to be pointing towards their direction. And so, Yun Xiao broke the ice and started his introduction. Hello everyone, my name is Yun Xiao. My martial soul is an astrolabe, and my soul power is at rank 12. My goal is to become an intelligent support-type soul master. Of course, since Yun Xiao was given the nickname of Mastermind for his quick-mindedness, it was simply fitting for that to be his aspiration. He started and ended his introduction in a dignified manner, though there was a hint of trembling in his voice. Tang Wulin was next in line, and so he stood up. Wu Zhongkong's gaze rested on him. It was then that he understood the tremor in Yun Xiao's voice. His gaze was sharp, to the point that it seemed to penetrate into a person's essence. Tang Wulin, martial soul is blue-silver grass, soul power is rank 11. My aspiration is, he halted when he was introducing his aspirations. I don't have one yet. That's a trash soul, no wonder you have no aspirations. A comment escaped from the mass of students seated within the classroom. Su! A piece chalk flew precisely into the mouth of said student, like a guided missile being aimed at its target. Oh you! The chalk had some spiraling force as it went into the throat of the student. He started retching immediately. Wu Zhongkong spoke ruthlessly, there are no trash martial soul in this world. Rather, there are only trash people. Consider your own morals first before calling others trash. If you aren't a piece of trash yourself, would you have landed in Class 5? Wu Zhongkong's ice-cold and powerful voice caused the whole class to quiet down in fear. Proceed. I am Zhu Xiangxi. My martial soul is the Titan Ape, soul power at rank 11. My goal is to become a strength system battle soul master. Xie Xie. Martial soul is light dragon dagger, soul power at rank 18. Agility system battle soul master. When the words rank 18 came out, the whole class was instantly shocked. A 9-year-old child with rank 18 soul power. This was truly a genius. Moreover, he was actually a battle soul master. After another 2 soul power ranks, he would become a soul grandmaster. Anyone capable of becoming a soul grandmaster before 12 years old was qualified to be called a genius. In the end, the highlight of the class was Xie Xie's soul power rank. In fact, Yun Xiao's rank 12 soul power was considered quite high, as the majority of students entered with rank 11 soul power. As for their martial souls, there were all sorts of fantastic oddities, but none of them were particularly powerful. Of course, Tang Wulin's blue-silver grass was still the worst of them all. This fact was practically set in stone. Starting tomorrow, classes will officially begin. My teaching style is a bit different from other teachers, so if you're afraid of pain, fatigue, or aches, quickly change schools or think of a way to change classes. Those who remain should mentally prepare themselves. That is all. Class dismissed. After Wu Zhangkong's tall figure strode out from the classroom on his pair of long legs, the classroom exploded with chatter. Nearly all of them were discussing this cold, yet handsome teacher. Let's go then. You still need to fulfill your promise. Xie Xie looked towards Tang Wulin as he spoke. Although it was still morning, their classes had already ended. Classes wouldn't officially start for them until the next day. All right. Tang Wulin stood up and led the way out. As soon as Tang Wulin walked through the doorway, he found that the entire floor was filled with noisy upperclassmen. What are they doing? Huh? Tang Wulin? Right at that moment, a familiar voice called out. Tang Wulin turned towards the voice, but its elegant owner had already arrived in front of him. It was the senior sister from the Advanced Academy who had greeted him yesterday, Liu Yuxin. Senior sister. Tang Wulin revealed a smile. He had a highly favorable impression of her. Wulin. You're in class 5. Tang Wulin nodded. My martial soul is blue-silver grass. It's a trash martial soul after all. Naturally I can only enter class 5. Liu Yuxin hastily said, No. That's not what I meant. I meant to say, Teacher Wu Zhongkong is your class's teacher, right? Tang Wulin answered, That's right. Liu Yuxin's beautiful eyes instantly brightened up. Wulin, senior sister has a matter I need to trouble you with. Tang Wulin was stunned but still said, All right. Liu Yuxin placed an item in his hands and quietly said, When you have class in the future, help me take a few pictures of the icily arrogant Prince Charming. Oh, that's your teacher, Wu Zhongkong. Icily arrogant Prince Charming? Tang Wulin asked her, puzzled. Liu Yuxin's pretty face blushed red. You guys wouldn't know this, but Wu Zhongkong is the #1 lady killer in our academy. With that coldness of his, regardless of whether it's the young female teachers or the female students, we all find him charming. He was a teacher at the Advanced Academy previously, but for some reason he was sent to the Intermediate Academy. Moreover, he was actually assigned to your class. We all feel that this is an injustice against him. However, the Academy has already decided on it, so there isn't anything to be done about it, even if we all miss him. Help us take some pictures of him and this senior sister definitely won't treat you unfairly. Tang Wulin stood there foolishly. He hadn't expected Liu Yuxin would ask him to do this kind of thing. Senior sister, isn't this no good? Liu Yuxin giggled. Don't worry about it. It's totally fine. If senior sister leaks some intel regarding teacher Wu to you, it'll definitely be of benefit. Xie Xie was right behind Tang Wulin and was actually a bit impatient when he saw Tang Wulin talking with Liu Yuxin. When he heard what she said, however, any desire to drag Tang Wulin away was dispelled. After hearing these circumstances, he gained an important understanding of the exotic flower that was their class's teacher. Liu Yuxin said, Teacher Wu is our academy's most formidable teacher. Not only is he handsome and has an excellent build, but he's also knowledgeable and multi-talented. He's an excellent teacher as well. He has even cultivated to such a high level. Some say that he's the #1 expert in our academy. I think I once saw him with at least 6 soul rings. That means he's at least a soul emperor. Soul emperor? This was simply too far off for Tang Wulin to imagine. With his current soul rank, It was practically impossible for him to cultivate to 6 soul rings as he didn't have the ability to purchase a powerful spirit soul. The number of spirit souls a human could absorb was limited to what their spiritual power could bear. White spirit souls could only offer up 1 soul ring, and currently, soul masters could only absorb up to 3 spirit souls. If they absorbed 3 white spirit souls, then 3 rings would be their limit. Yellow spirit souls could produce 2 soul skills at most, which was basically 2 soul rings. This was also the reason 100-year spirit souls were worth so much more. As for the higher-level purple-colored 1,000-year spirit souls and black-colored 10,000-year spirit souls, Tang Wulin didn't even dare to imagine obtaining one of them. Teacher Wu Zhongkong actually had 6 rings. He was actually such a powerful person. East Sea City only had a few 6-ring soul emperors, but more than that, he was actually so young. Alright then. I'm going to head off first. Don't forget to take a few pictures for me. The item she had slipped into Tang Wulin's hands was actually a soul camera. Senior sister. Tang Wulin called out, but Liu Yuxin had already run away. She was really fast and was actually chasing after teacher Wu Zhongkong. You should give that camera to someone else for safekeeping first. You don't want to break it after all, Xie Xie coldly said. It's fine. Let's go, Tang Wulin said as he shot a glance towards Xie Xie. The benefits he obtained from meditation this previous day wasn't small. Unexpectedly, the area he improved the most wasn't forging, but combat. That was the first time he had used his martial soul in a battle. In addition to the pressure Xie Xie exerted on him, he felt that the understanding he had for his martial soul had increased. This was the reason why he hadn't rejected today's battle. His master had said that his blue-silver grass was a variant martial soul, so it wasn't purely trash anymore. After exiting the school, Tang Wulin asked Xie Xie, "Where are we going?" Xie Xie answered, "We're going to East Sea Park. There aren't many people there, so you can be at ease. I'll find someone to treat your injuries." Tang Wulin simply said, "The facts will prove themselves." East Sea Park wasn't far from East Sea Academy. One could reach the park after a 10-minute stroll by following the path next to the exit of the academy. The park was accessible to the public at no charges at all. As it was still early in the day, the park was filled with many citizens doing their morning exercises. As one strolled into the park, their senses would be greeted with a rush of nature's perfume, a blend of the crisp scent of the plants and the floral sweetness from flowers, which refreshed their minds. Tang Wulin felt himself gradually relaxing. His blue-silver grass was a plant martial soul, and he was currently surrounded by fields of blue-silver grass. This was the environment he loved best. He had a faint thought that if he meditated here, the results would be much better than if he were to meditate back in the dorms. He had already proven this point when he was back home in Glory-bound City. But it was impossible to compare the small garden back home to this park with its endless boundaries. The differences in size was simply incomparable. Xie Xie wasn't surprised that he wasn't the first to arrive. He strolled casually and with much familiarity into the deepest parts of the park. Following the graveled walkway into the park, one would realize the differences in the size of the trees. The deeper into the park, the larger they became. East Sea Park had a history of over 1,000 years, long before even the East Sea Academy had been founded. With its rich history, the park contained many varieties of rare trees. As he moved deeper into the park, Tang Wulin gradually felt even better. This feeling of returning back to nature revitalized the martial soul within him. Such a good place. I will be back again, Tang Wulin thought. As they reached the deepest part of the park, where they were well hidden from others, Xie Xie halted in the center of an open area. Here it is. He turned to face Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin stopped at the same time, returning a cautious look to Xie Xie. I will be fair to you. Since I am an agility system battle soul master, I will move back 50 meters. When I say start, you may move. As he spoke, Xie Xie began moving backwards. He refused to take advantage of Tang Wulin. Especially not with his pride held up so high. Tang Wulin didn't make a sound. Instead, his mind was filled with the images of their previous match. The yellow color of Xie's martial soul when he released it during the match the other day was still vivid in his mind. Though he hadn't managed to grasp the spirit soul of Xie, it was clear to him that the color meant that Xie had a 100-year spirit soul. A 100-year spirit soul would naturally have 100-year soul skills. Tang Wulin was unsure about the strength of that power. Are you prepared? Xie's voice came to him from afar. Tang Wulin took a deep breath and focused his gaze. Let's start. Xie answered back coldly, I will show you the disparity between our skills. I will make you pay for the shame you have done to me. Start. As soon as he ended his words, he was flying towards Tang Wulin's direction like a released arrow. As Xie prepared for his sprint, he had positioned himself low, giving others an image of him hugging the ground. A ring of yellow light appeared beneath his feet. Like the day before, Tang Wulin noticed that as he released this 100-year spirit soul, a 35-centimeter-long blade that seemed to be made of crystal yellow appeared in his right hand. As Xie sped forth, the accompanying dagger produced a faint dragon's growl. Tang Wulin also released his blue-silver grass within a short span of time. A tiny, golden glowing grass snake appeared on his arm and twirled around his wrist. Strands of vine-like blue-silver grass flew out. While Tang Wulin had little to no practical experience, the blue-silver grass thrived with its ability to cover a wide range of space. As these little blades of grass expanded, its surface area increased rapidly and enveloped Xie easily. Still using the same trick. A trace of disdain flashed across Xie's face. He increased his speed swiftly. Xie, who was previously charging in a straight line towards him, shifted into an illusion. At once, Tang Wulin lost sight of Xie and his ability to pinpoint his exact location due to the dizzying blur before him. Xie moved through the gaps of Tang Wulin's weaving of variant blue-silver grass unscathed and shortened his distance with Tang Wulin. This is bad. If bind fails to trap my opponent, then this variant blue-silver grass is no longer useful in battle. Tang Wulin thought this as he retracted the grass vines and directed them before himself. The denser these vines were, the higher the defense capabilities they would have. It was an idea that came to him during his meditation the night before. At this time, Xie was already within a 10-meter range from Tang Wulin. Xie's speed didn't change. Instead, his arm moved even quicker. The light dragon dagger in his hand morphed into a bursting ball of light which released endless golden rays that were aimed precisely at the blue-silver grass beneath him. It was then that Tang Wulin realized the immense difference between Xie and himself. Every blade of his blue-silver grass had been slashed apart by the light that came from Xie's light dragon dagger. Although the blades of grass were still intact, they could easily be swung off. With the light dragon dagger's sharp blade cutting against his blue-silver grass, Tang Wulin felt the soul power within him diminished rapidly. Within a breath's time, Tang Wulin's soul power had depleted by more than 10%. If Xie had found out the characteristics of Tang Wulin's soul power, he would not have needed to use such a forceful attack against Tang Wulin. This technique would have easily emptied out all of Tang Wulin's soul power. As the shield of blue-silver grass parted, Tang Wulin no longer had any defense against Xie's oncoming attack. Xie was already right before him by then. Since blue-silver grass was no longer useful, Tang Wulin shot both his fists forwards, exploding them at Xie. At the same time, he controlled and withdrew all of his blue-silver grass. He was hoping that by doing so, he could successfully perform bind as he tried to shield off his opponent's attack. This was his only chance at winning the match. From a typical point of view, blue-silver grass belonging to a control system would ideally make it easier to defeat martial souls belonging to the agility system category. However, the difference between Tang Wulin and Xie was far too great in terms of their skills or experiences. Xie tilted only slightly to avoid Tang Wulin's pair of clenched fists that had produced a light explosive sound. With a sharp, flash-like turn, he was already at Tang Wulin's side. At this point in time, Tang Wulin was caught defenseless. If this was a battlefield, and Xie had the intention to kill, he could have laid his blade easily on Tang Wulin's neck. However, Xie took an abrupt pause. He only had the thought of defeating Tang Wulin in mind, and didn't have any other intention. He changed the direction of his dagger, twitching the blade at its handle, and locked on his target, Tang Wulin's cheek. "I will pay you back for the swelling that you did to my face." While many decisions were being made within Xie's mind during this split second, Tang Wulin suddenly jerked and tilted his head down, using the back of his skull to knock against Xie's handle during this fraction of time. However, Xie's response was quick. What made a person an agility system martial soul master? At its highest realm of mastery, the master would be able to avoid direct combat for as long as they wished. When the opponent was finally selected, they would have already been left defenseless. Though Xie was proud, his analysis of Tang Wulin wasn't influenced by that pride and was accurate. He knew clearly that Tang Wulin's strength wasn't something that he could withstand. He twisted his agile wrist in a split second and sank the light dragon dagger into Tang Wulin's shoulder blade. The light dragon dagger pierced into his shoulder. Xie restrained himself in this attack as he thought that Tang Wulin's whole arm would have been severed if he'd used his entire strength. Neither of them had a deep hatred for the other, so giving him a small lesson would be enough. However, what shocked him was that Tang Wulin's shoulder flesh was extremely tough. Even his light dragon dagger was only able to cut about an inch. Even if he had restrained his strength, this result was simply too shocking. Bright red blood appeared, accompanied by pain. This caused Tang Wulin to lose control of the withdrawing blue-silver grass, leaving the grass limp on the ground. As the light dragon dagger pushed down, Tang Wulin was forced to his knees. After stumbling a bit, he was able to stand back up. He wanted to punch Xie, but Xie suddenly spun and was already at his rear. The light dragon dagger in his shoulder twisted, causing a burst of pain to shoot throughout his body. In particular, the spot where the light dragon dagger had stabbed him had an energy which oppressed his soul power. Admit defeat. Xie's voice was proud after having avenged his defeat against Tang Wulin's fist the previous day. Tang Wulin clenched his teeth. His stubborn heart couldn't possibly allow him to concede at this point. Right at that moment, the pain in his shoulder seemed to ignite through his whole body. A scorching wave of heat rushed forth, spreading rapidly throughout his being. He wanted to speak out, but found that he wasn't able to speak at all. "I ask you, do you admit defeat?" Xie pressed down on the dagger in his hand as he fiercely said this. "No." Tang Wulin snarled with a hint of rebellion. Xie was stunned for a moment. He wondered why Tang Wulin's voice was so hoarse, even when the wound was so shallow. Subconsciously, even he wanted to pull out the light dragon dagger. At that moment, however, an unexpected situation occurred. The light dragon dagger that was stabbed into his shoulder issued out an ear-piercing dragon's roar that filled Xie's entire being with palpitation. He felt as if he had suddenly encountered something dreadful. The blood suddenly stopped flowing from the location where the light dragon dagger was embedded and a golden light began to spill out of the wound. Bathed in that golden light, the light dragon dagger slid a bit out of the wound. Faced with this unknown situation, Xie's first thought was to retreat. However, he was aghast to discover that the light dragon dagger was practically clinging onto Tang Wulin, and he couldn't retrieve the light dragon dagger at all. Ah! Tang Wulin let out a shocking roar as a golden light poured out of his wound, dislodging the light dragon dagger. As Xie watched, a golden mass of light suddenly rushed towards him, then he felt as if he was flying, as though he had been hit by a high-speed soul train. He immediately blacked out, completely unaware of what happened. Bang! Xie crashed into a large tree off in the distance and slowly slid down its trunk. Tang Wulin half knelt on the ground. His eyes were just as red as before, while his whole body violently trembled. Right at this moment, he felt as though he were metal being calcined in a furnace. The blazing heat within his body made him shake unceasingly. However, he was still completely conscious. When he had punched Xie moments ago, he had restrained his strength at the very last moment, otherwise he feared that Xie would have died. He lowered his head and was shocked to see his right hand covered in scales. These were golden scales shaped like rhombuses. Each scale protruded outwards a bit, giving it a sharp look. His fingernails had a sharp scale that narrowed to a point, similar to sharp talons. The little grass snake, Gold Light, who'd been twisting around his arm had also releasing a faint golden light. Moreover, its whole body had actually lengthened by a whole circle while its two small eyes had turned red, similar to a pair of twinkling rubies. Was it the reason? Was it not a trash spirit soul? What was the cause of all this? Tang Wulin quickly took off his shirt and was dumbstruck when he saw that the change wasn't only around his palms. Rather, the scales covered his entire right arm. Starting from where the light dragon dagger had stabbed him, the golden scales spread all the way to his palms. His arm had an indescribable feeling of power within it. Subconsciously, he suddenly punched out with his right arm. Boom! When he punched the air with his right arm, a golden ball of light rushed forth and gave an indistinct shape of a dragon's head as it traveled a meter out in front of him. The powerful aura from his all-out punch confirmed his suspicions as to the effect it would have had on a human body. Gold light, is this power because of you? Tang Wulin asked the little grass snake wrapped around his wrist, pleasantly surprised. Right at that moment, however, the inflated body of the little grass snake began to gradually shrink back to its original size, while the golden scales on his arm also began to rapidly vanish. Several breaths of time later, everything was back to normal. The only thing that remained was a feeling of exhaustion. Tang Wulin's vision faded to darkness, then he lost consciousness. He hadn't put on his clothes yet, so when the golden veins appeared on his body once again, they were visible for anyone to see. In particular, the shining lines on his vertebra were especially bright. Sun with rays. Xie woke up with a jolt. He was still dazed, but noticed a vague change in scenery. When he raised his head to look around, he saw a familiar scene. The moment he looked up, he saw the gates of East Sea Academy. The sky had already turned dark, so the lit words of East Sea Academy were exceptionally clear. Wulu wulu, Xie wanted to speak out, but he discovered that all the sounds he made were completely incomprehensible. Tang Wulin's brows wrinkled and asked Xie, who he carried on his back, "What did you say?" "Wu what?" Xie's words were still as unclear as before. As he gradually became more clear-headed, Xie discovered that he was being carried on Tang Wulin's back. He subconsciously raised his hand to touch his face, finding it swollen up like bread. His whole face was already thick with numbness. Like a surging tide, he gradually recalled the events from before. Xie's mind echoed with the words he had said before he and Tang Wulin had left East Sea Academy. "We're going to East Sea Park. There aren't many people there, so you can be at ease. I'll find someone to treat your injuries." But now, he had spent 24,000 coins just for a beating. This video will end here.